and Seine-Yoki University shall pave way to knowledge exchange, networking opportunities, and research-driven solutions.
At the end of these oral paper presentations, our participants are expected to demonstrate understanding of the relevant aspects of health and effective practices in research, initiate collaboration with researchers from Bicol University, Seine-Yoki University, and global universities, transform knowledge gained into tangible outcomes to effectively utilize research results.
Having heard the objectives of this research conference, we hope that this competition shall usher in and strengthen collaborative research endeavors. Without further ado, may we respectfully introduce our esteemed panel of evaluators who will be assessing the competition entries for today. Evaluator number 1 is Dr. Melvin Garin, Associate Professor 1 of College of Medicine, Bicol University. Evaluator number 2 is Professor Maria Elma Merandilla, Technical Staff of Publication and Knowledge Management Division, Bicol University. Evaluator number 3 is Attorney Joseph Bartolata, Dean of the College of Law, Bicol University. So how about another round of applause for our highly competent and well-driven judges for this competition on oral research presentation student category.
On top of that, Ma'am Lubete, our student nurses shall be rated according to the following rubrics: creativity, originality, and quality of work, 30%, significance of findings, 45%, manuscript write-up, 15%, and paper presentation, 10%, with a total of 100%.
Moreover, ladies and gentlemen, the following specific guidelines shall be observed by the student researchers during the oral research presentation. So this is just a reiteration, my dear student presenters. The presentation shall be done according to the sequence which we will reveal in a while. Second, each presenter shall be given 10 minutes for the presentation and 5 minutes for the question and answer, as well as critiquing from our panel of evaluators. Third, to facilitate a smooth flow of presentation, each student researcher shall present one after the other in a continuous manner. There will be no more breaks or interference in between the paper presentations. Number 4, a paper which obtained the highest rating will be adjudged as best paper, provided the rating is at least 85 points. The second and the third placers will also be recognized, provided that they scored at least 85 points. Once the judging process is complete and winners are announced at the plenary, the results are considered final and binding.
Before we take the pleasure of introducing our presenters this morning, please allow us to publicly express our gratitude to the proponents of this third International Research Conference, to the organizers and heads of all the committees, to the moderators and facilitators of the plenary and breakout sessions, of course, to the staff from Bicol University Research Development Management Division, Sir Mr. Russell, and of course, another technical assistant from Bicol University College of Nursing, Madam Melissa Pexon, thank you very much. From Bicol University of Nursing, and to our partner university, of course, the Seine-Yoki University in this research conference. Moving forward, Ma'am Lubete, may we now respectfully call on the names of the presenters, and state the titles of their papers. First presenter in the name of Miss Angelica Villarreal, with her teammates Miss Kyla Angeli Torre and Miss Laika Monica Vargas, with a study entitled The Perceived Effects on the Use of Online Platforms for Self-Diagnosing Mental Health Concerns among Level 1 student nurses of Bicol University.
Presenter number 2 is Christine Denise Cano, together with her teammates Alexandra Adele Magno, Gianna Nicole Odsinada, and Emmeline Joyce Olitan, with their study entitled Lived Experiences of Persons with Disabilities Students on the Learning Modality Changes of Selected Academic Units in Bicol University Main Campus.
Presenter number 3, Miss Maria Loren Julia Sales, with her teammates Miss Christine Labanon, Miss Kay Margalio, and Miss Helene Charcy Miguel, with a study entitled COVID-19 Booster Shot Hesitancy, Determinants Affecting the Decision of the Residents of Barangay Gabawan, Delga Albay.
Presenter number 4 is Elijah Magana, together with her teammates Maria Michelle Angelica Gianan, Jotham Lee, and Val Andre Magtarayo, with their study entitled Usability of Teleconsultation and Barriers to its Implementation in Legazpi City, Albay.
The last but not the least presenter, Miss Gaela Linel Nusinal, with her teammates Miss Franz Aljade Arrogante, Miss Maria Sara Lascano, and Miss Francine Ray Avemaria, with their study entitled Knowledge, Attitudes, and Practices on Pulmonary Tuberculosis and Tuberculosis Directly Observed Therapy Short Course among patients in selected barangays of Legazpi City.
To our dear student researchers of this international conference, we wish you a triumphant outcome in this competition.
Good luck, everyone!
We will now invite our first presenter to please come forward.
Yes po. It's working po. Can I start na po?
The perceived effects on the use of online platforms for self-diagnosing mental health concerns among Level 1 student nurses of Bicol University. Good morning, everyone. I am Angelica G. Villarreal, and I am the presenter of this study. Self-diagnosis of mental health concerns is the process of self-identifying mental health-related concerns. It is common among young adults. However, little is known about the perceived effects on the use of online platforms for self-diagnosing of mental health concerns. According to Bridger, online platforms are set to take the center stage in the next 5 years. Its accessibility, functionality, and convenience allows the patients and healthcare workers to follow the trend. the use of online platforms to spread healthcare information. According to the World Health Organization, there was a 25% increase in the global prevalence of anxiety and depression in the first year of the COVID-19 pandemic. The Philippines is the country with the third highest rate of the mental health problems in the Western Pacific region. In the year 2020, the Department of Health revealed that there are more than 3.6 million Filipinos suffering from at least one kind of mental, neurological, or substance use disorder. The Philippine Mental Health Act promotes mental health services for individuals and encourages educational institutions and communities to integrate mental health care and strategies. Meanwhile, the Bicol University's Research, Development, and Management Division created two agendas for health systems management and mental health and psychosocial intervention. Level 1 student nurses of Bicol University were the chosen respondents for the study. A study revealed that university students put an effort into finding the state of their mental health to not compromise their overall well-being. And because of the demand of the course, 99.3% of student nurses are reported to have suffered from moderate to high levels of stress. The rampant use of different online platforms as a source of information regarding mental health concerns among young adults emboldened us to conduct this study. We sought to know the perceived effects on the use of online platforms for self-diagnosing mental health concerns among the Level 1 student nurses of Bicol University. Specifically, we identified the social demographic profile of the respondents along sex, birth order in the family, and current living arrangement, the extent of utilization of online platforms for self-diagnosing mental health concerns, the perceived effects of using online platforms for self-diagnosing mental health concerns, and lastly, the perceived strategies for deterring the negative effects of using online platforms for self-diagnosis of mental health concerns. We only focused on the mentioned problems. Other self-diagnosis of health-related concerns such as physical ailments and disabilities and reasons for self-diagnosis were not included in this undertaking. The study will mainly benefit the Level 1 student nurses and other students of Bicol University, their relatives, the teaching and non-teaching personnel of Bicol University, the Bicol Mental Health Council, the Commission on Higher Education, the Department of Health, the barangay officials in Sangguniang Kabataan, and lastly, the future researchers. The study was conducted at Bicol University College of Nursing Main, Tabaco, and Pulangi campus. In gathering the data, the questionnaires in Google Forms, together with the informed consent, were emailed to the respondents. Strict confidentiality was then observed. Stratified random sampling was used to determine the desired sample for each campus. Slowin's formula was used to get the sample size, and systematic random sampling was used to choose samples from each campus. To understand the respondents' social demographic profiles and assess the effects and strategies of using online platforms for self-diagnosing of mental health concerns, frequency, percentage, and ranking were used. The extent of utilization of online platforms for self-diagnosing mental health concerns was analyzed using weighted mean and ranking. For the results and discussion about the social demographic profile of the respondents, we found out that majority of the respondents are females. Sex can make a difference for some health risk factors. Having the majority of the respondents vulnerable to mental health illness may impact their perception and the effects and strategies of use of online platforms for self-diagnosing mental health concerns. Majority of the respondents are middle children in the family. Middle children are good at being among the 209 respondents. 84 lives with their married parents and siblings. According to FACET, campus environments are crucial to the success of college students as they frequently shape a student's sense of belonging. For the extent of utilization of online platforms in self-diagnosing mental health concerns among the respondents, we found that search engines and social media platforms were the most often used online platforms, when knowledge-sharing platforms were the least used. This suggests that many student nurses prefer seeking answers online rather than consulting medical professionals, finding it more practical and convenient. Effects of using online platforms for self-diagnosing mental health concerns among the respondents, our findings indicated that as student nurses use online platforms for self-diagnosing their mental health concerns, they tend to dwell, worry, and analyze more on the found mental health information. They also gain more insights into their mental health concerns and become more aware of their behavior. For perceived strategies of the respondents in deterring the negative effects of using online platforms for self-diagnosing mental health concerns, listening to music is the most preferred method. We therefore conclude that majority of the respondents are female, middle child in the family, and are living with their nuclear family. Search engine and social media platforms are the highly utilized online platforms for self-diagnosing mental health concerns. Student nurses perceive that using online platforms for self-diagnosing mental health concerns affects the cognitive aspect the most. Although the student nurses perceive positive effects, they also perceive negative effects. Among them, there was a predominant inclination towards using adaptive coping strategies more than maladaptive coping strategies. We therefore recommend that future researchers may delve into the prevalence of self-diagnosis and other possible sources of mental health related information that can contribute to the self-diagnosis of mental health related concerns. Further, it is also recommended to have regular evaluation and monitoring of the mental well-being of students of the university and allow the use of various effective strategies. That would be all.
Maybe she should work on that.
To the final vote.
Hello. Good morning, Ms.
Good
Delia
morning.
Rian. Okay. What is your definition of mental health concern?
For us po, mental health concerns are it's not the concerns na clinically diagnosed. It's on the effects effects table. Example, overthinking, and the likes po. It's not the clinically diagnosed.
It's normal, not abnormality. Normal.
Yes po.
Okay. So the
It's
only
just-
issue here
It's a
is you
concern.
put the term self-diagnosis. When you said the word diagnose, there seems to be a problem. Okay? In this disease, there's a problem. So pag nilagay mo na diagnosis, ibig sabihin may problema. So what you're saying, your mental health concerns are normal. Normal reaction. Overthinking.
For us po,
Let me compose my answer. Mental health concerns.
first po kasi sir, we started the study honestly with the illness. However po, we were advised to not push through with the illness because the study is new and when it's illness, it's like, if we go there, hindi pa namin nasa-study nga yung concerns. So,
I
better,
understand. The
naka-search
only
muna.
issue here is you use the word self-diagnosis. Diagnosis. Palitan niyo yung diagnosis. Kasi may problema. Ang sinasabi mo, lahat ng estudyante na nila niyo may problema. Hindi ka. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good morning, Dr.
Good congratulations to you and of course to your team members. Now, based on the empirical data your study has gathered, would you recommend that uh, all students of Bicol University would make use of online platforms to address their mental concerns?
Since in my perspective po, as someone conducting study, no po, since student nurses doesn't represent the whole BU itself, we only conduct the study within the student nurses because based from our related literature and studies, stress is common among the student nurses alone. Kumbaga, it's not within our scope. So I cannot speak for everyone every student in Bicol University. I can only speak for my co-student nurses, which, according to the study, 99.3% po suffers from moderate to high levels of stress. That's why we conducted the study po. And the term that we put is mental health concern. Kasi nga, it's stress.
Okay, since there is still time, so congratulations again, of course, Ms. Villarreal and to your group. Ako siguro, it's not more on questioning, but for you to be able to improve your discussions, you can input the developmental stage because your respondents are sabi mo nga, level 1 students. So, what are expected developmentally, because of course it will affect their mental health or status. And maybe on some methodology I am not clear, or you may clarify, talk among yourselves, review if this is really stratified or should be clustered. Okay? Yes. And you can simplify your sampling technique into just the simple random. There is no need to do the stratified if in case maiba po yung answer nyo to my previous question. But of course, the study is very timely. Not just for the level 1, not just for anyone, but even for us professionals. Don't forget us, sometimes the students. And so, yun po. Congratulations.
Thank you so much po. Is there any other questions po? Thank you so much po. Mic test.
During the height of the pandemic, health restrictions greatly affected people in various sectors at the global level. Can you imagine how hard it was, especially for persons with disabilities? In the country, there are 1.44 million PWDs. Locally, Bicol region ranks 6 among the 17 regions with 100,000 PWDs. In 2022, the state enacted Republic Act 11650, or instituting a policy of inclusion and services in support of the Inclusive Education Act. This is strengthened by Sustainable Development Goal 4, which aims to guarantee equal and accessible education through inclusive learning environments. In the Philippines, from blended learning modality, CHED Memorandum Order Number 16, Series of 2022, directed universities to implement full on-campus classes starting in the second semester of AY 2022 to 2023. That is why this study sought to capture the lived experiences of PWD students on the transition from blended to full on-site classes in selected academic units of BU with regards to the mental, physical, emotional, and social aspects, coping mechanisms employed, and the modifications needed in the learning modality changes. The theoretical framework used in the study is Roy's Adaptation Model, or RAM. It is a nursing theory which broadly covers adaptation issue of chronic illnesses, physical and psychological aspects. Phenomenological qualitative research design was used, and the semi-structured interview was conducted to the 15 selected participants from the Colleges of Arts and Letters, Education, and Nursing. The impairments recorded were visual, auditory, physical, psychosocial, and multiple disabilities. Informed consent was signed before the interview, and ethical standards were employed. Pseudonyms were utilized to ensure participants' anonymity. Thematic analysis with an inductive approach was used, and in this study, 14 themes were generated through data familiarization, coding, generating themes, reviewing the themes, and producing the report. The themes on the lived experiences of PWD students in the different aspects are learning strategies shape the learning modalities of students. So for an example, Jenny with visual impairment learns best by annotating in both modalities. On-screen was used during blended, but now face-to-face in print was used. Confidence, productivity, and physical health impact academic engagement. For example, Jenny's confidence despite her disability allowed her to be dedicated to academics and co-curricular activities. Meanwhile, Nympha with auditory impairment remains shy. She experiences frequent dizziness and cannot participate in some PE classes. Emotions influence motivation of students to learn. Human emotions are significantly linked to cognitive processes such as attention, learning, and memory. So being calm and at ease increase their persistence to learn, whereas being exhausted decrease their drive to do academic activities. Establish relationships with family, friends, classmates, and professors lead to positive learning. They conveyed how family dynamics and relationships provided them with moral and emotional support. Moreover, during the transition period, majority reported that they do not have a conducive learning environment at home, with noise being a number one factor, followed by distractions due to household chores. 6 themes were identified in the coping mechanisms. So they managed their learning during the transition period through So they managed manage their learning during the transition period through establishing a structured routine and note-taking, which help with retention, focus, and active participation. Non-curative management of physical difficulties were also employed, such as resting, sleeping, exercising, and wearing assistive devices, which help relieve fatigue but not their entire physical difficulty. Adaptive strategies to manage stress include joining organizations, enjoying hobbies and self-care, and also spending time with their comfort people. Maladaptive patterns in coping were also recognized. A student disclosed information about self-harm, which induced a calming effect and helped them deal with discomfort. Lastly, they managed their social connections through using social media and employed acceptance of their disability. The PWD students suggested the following modifications. Improving facilities and plan of action for PWDs by providing a conducive environment with quality chairs and lighting. So policies and programs should focus on conducting awareness seminars, prioritization of funds for scholarship grants, and mental health policies. Faculty members should display sensitivity and refine their learning materials. They should increase their font size and use appropriate color schemes. Moreover, they should improve the quality of their videos and also the projection of their voices, and to display equitable treatment towards PWD students. Non-faculty personnel are suggested to render empathetic service, such as allocating PWD line transactions, learning basic sign language, and avoiding offensive comments. Lastly, family and friends could modify their support and assistance through recognizing emerging concerns and sentiments. They could do this through allocating funds for disability needs, such as medical checkups, and also being more understanding, supportive, and present. Here is the paradigm of the study as inspired by RAM. So the changes in the learning modalities are the environment that sets the person's stimuli. The themes for the coping mechanisms are used to adapt, despite their disabilities. So from this, addressing the barriers and accommodating the modifications will create better access to learning opportunities for PWD students. The researchers also recognized the findings of the study. So the quality of learning experience for PWD students can be made more effective by combining the strengths of both modalities. And disabilities do not entirely hinder learning by employing a variety of methods despite changes in teaching modalities. Lastly, tangible resolutions are suggested to address recurring issues and concerns. The researchers recognize the value of technology in education. In this study, PWD students belong to Generation Z, also referred to as digital natives. They were born into the world where technology is already rampant and the use of social media is easily accessible. So relating to contribution to new knowledge on science and technology, the findings of the study show significance on on-site learning, since face-to-face interaction improves the capacity of students in their social integration. This enhances the students' ability to connect with others and explore their ideas and resolutions. The researchers also recognize the value of inclusive education in healthcare practice. The findings of the study will cultivate awareness and understanding, which is significant in the field of nursing, as they will be providing patient care to clients belonging in the PWD sector. So this study contributes to BU research development and extension under Theme 6, Inclusive Education and Lifelong Learning. Globally, fostering inclusivity in the education sector, considering that PWDs face multiple barriers, there is a significant need to provide inclusive teaching strategies. This will enable them to keep up with students without impairments and integrate into the mainstream educational process without overlooking their disabilities, and thus, no students are left behind. That concludes my presentation. I am now ready to answer any queries.
Thank you, Christine.
Thank you.
And of course, congratulations to you and to your, uh, you emphasized in your presentation that your study is anchored on RAM,
Yes.
Royce,
adaptation model.
Adaptation.
Yes.
Of course, we all know that research is conducted to prove or disprove a theory proposed by somebody, this time by Caliesta. So my question to you is, did your study prove or disprove RAM?
Our study proved Roy's adaptation model po. As you can see, so in RAMPO, it is a nursing theory that broadly covers adaptation issue of chronic illnesses, physical and psychological aspects. So our study was able to employ this model since the changes in the learning modalities are the environment that sets the person's stimuli. So the teams identified on coping mechanisms are used to adapt, considering their disabilities, in order to carry on despite the changes in learning modalities. So from this, addressing the barriers and accommodating the modifications will create better access to learning opportunities for PWD students.
Okay. So, Ms. Cano, congratulations. Okay. My question is, how come you did not put here your social demographic profile for the subjects, and also wala kayong age, sex, how come?
Okay po. So, in our study po, it was not our priority since we wanted to center more on the lived experiences of PWD students on the changes or on the transition of learning modalities. So, we focused on how they cope, the coping mechanisms utilized during the transition period, and the modifications that they can suggest to the family, friends, administrators, and non-faculty personnel. So, the demographic status is not necessary.
Yay. 2 minutes. Ma'am, can you share with us who the beneficiaries of this study would be? Or
So, the findings and conclusions are recommended to PWD students, of course, family, friends, the administrators, faculty members, and non-faculty personnel.
and in terms of the school administrators as one of the beneficiaries of your study, what were your recommendations for the members?
Actually po, we sent the letter of recommendations to our dean's office so that it can be incorporated with the changes in the Bicol University handbook. So in the recommendations, we added po equitable treatment towards PWD students and also prioritizing funds for PWDs and refining learning materials so that PWDs will be more receptive to learning.
Okay, thank you. But Dean, is it possible that they be represented in the council, student council? It just came into my thought that in your student council body, kasi nga nakakalimutan there. Sometimes we forget about our PWD students.
Yes po, truly.
So, you may add that. Also, just some few points before itanda naman. So this study is very timely because the challenges were present even before the COVID-19 pandemic. Then just for you to improve maybe your discussion on your themes, especially on lived experiences, please relate it to or how do you define mental anyway as one of your indicator for objective 1, because when you read through it, it's like cognitive ability that they describe it. So, and please don't forget to cite your sources. Thank you, and congratulations. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I am Lauren Salas, and I will be presenting our study entitled COVID-19 Booster Shot Hesitancy, Determinants Affecting the Decision of the Residents of Barangay Gabawan, Daraga Albay, which was conducted last April 2023 in the light of the surge of new COVID-19 variants, wherein alert levels were raised in the province of Albay due to the rise in numbers of individuals who contracted the new strains of virus. So our study mainly focuses on addressing the issue of vaccine hesitancy. So let's first define vaccine hesitancy. According to WHO, vaccine hesitancy refers to delay in acceptance or refusal of safe vaccines despite availability of vaccination services. The issue is complex and context-specific, varying across time, place, and vaccines. It is influenced by factors such as misinformation, complacency, convenience, and confidence. The COVID-19 virus rapid mutation presents a significant challenge to the effectiveness of the initial vaccine doses. And like all vaccines, COVID-19 vaccines also experience a decline in efficacy over time. Some mutations seem to affect the coronavirus spike protein, which covers the outer coating of SARS-CoV-2 and gives the virus its characteristic spike appearance. Researchers have early evidence that some new variants seem to bind more tightly to our cells, and this seems to make some of these new strains stickier due to the changes in the spike protein. And despite concerted efforts, there's a troubling decline in the uptake of booster shots. So low vaccination uptake and rapid mutation of the virus pose a significant threat to the health of the community. As of November 21, 2022, here are the top 5 municipalities in Albay with the lowest vaccination rate, in which the municipality of Daraga ranked second with only 78.30 vaccination rate. We have narrowed down the target population to Barangay Gabawan, which ranked first on the list of barangays with the highest vaccination rate. As of September 2022, 905 out of 2,033 total population of Daraga got their first dose. So according to RHU, they have used Johnson & Johnson. So this first dose is as good as full dose, and no individuals got their booster shot with a rate of 44.65%. And as of April 23, 2023, during the data gathering procedure, an increase of 15 individuals got their booster shots. This shows a modest increase of 0.6% in the vaccination rate. Addressing the issue of low vaccination uptake and high vaccine hesitancy is one of the primary motivations of this study. The declining trend in booster shot uptake represents a significant public health concern, and addressing this requires understanding the unique determinants influencing this behavior. Provided the given statistics of the current vaccination status, this study determined what underlying determinants affected the COVID-19 booster shots vaccination uptake among the residents of Barangay Gabawan, Daraga Albay. Respectively, it answered the following questions. What were the respondents' demographic profile in terms of gender, age, and nature of work? What were the determinants that affected COVID-19 booster shots hesitancy among the residents of Barangay Gabawan? What were the strategies utilized to increase the uptake of COVID-19 booster shots by A, Barangay Gabawan health workers, and B, the Rural Health Unit of Daraga? And lastly, what health education program should we propose to increase the vaccination uptake of COVID-19 booster shots of Barangay Gabawan? So this study utilized the quantitative design, specifically the descriptive normative method to identify the demographic profile, determinants affecting vaccine hesitancy, and initial strategies utilized, and the proposed health education program. In part, the population of the study were identified using purposive sampling with inclusion criteria. The criteria includes Barangay Gabawan residents who belongs to young adulthood to older adulthood, are COVID-19 booster shot hesitant, and are willing to participate. The total sample size is 100. We also utilize a self-structured questionnaire adapted from the study, and as a primary tool for the study. It also underwent a reliability testing, specifically parallel testing, to ensure that the results of the instrument is valid and reliable. Considering ethical boundaries, we seek approval from research advisor, dean, and the barangay captain of Gabawan prior to the conduct of the study, and written and verbal informed consent from respondents were obtained during the data gathering procedure. and we use frequency and percentage as the primary statistical tool. So the results of the demographic profile varies. Majority of the residents who are booster shot hesitant are female, 73%, young adults, 51%, who are likely unemployed, 56%. The basis for the nature of work of the respondents were derived from the International Standard Classification of Occupation. And the top determinants that contribute to vaccine hesitancy mainly revolves around fear, misinformation, and reliance to non-credible sources such as words of mouth. Here are the initial strategies implemented by the BHW. This includes Barangayang Suyod Bakuna or BSB and house-to-house orientation. Special vaccination-based project alongside with the nationwide campaign of the Department of Health, which is the Res Bakuna Kasangga ng Bida, were also utilized by the Rural Health Unit of Caraga. And in conclusion, the profile of the residents who were hesitant to receive COVID-19 booster shots is comprised of female young adults who are not required to receive complete vaccination with booster shots in their work or job. COVID-19 booster shot hesitancy of the residents of Barangay Gabawan is mostly related to fear of the side effects of the vaccine and misinformation. It is evident that they lack vaccine literacy, especially the role of immunization and disease prevention. Furthermore, they usually utilize and rely on non-credible sources about health, which is another key determinant that contributes to low vaccination uptake and high vaccine hesitancy among the residents of Barangay Gabawan. And despite the approaches initiated, vaccination rates did not show significant improvement. Therefore, it is imperative to evaluate the implementation of the strategies used and recognize the complexity of factors that influence the decision to obtain the vaccine and to reconcile initial hesitation with the facts. So for our recommendation, the local government unit officials and head of the vaccination program can utilize the results as a reference to improve the vaccination coverage and the vaccination rate of the municipality. It may serve as the basis for reviewing the budget allocation for the COVID-19 booster shot vaccination and programs on vaccine campaigns. Healthcare providers and community health nurses of Daraga can utilize the findings in developing alternative and more effective strategies to prevent the spread of vaccine misinformation and promote vaccination uptake by conducting health teachings and regular campaigns. The residents and family members will be benefited by the actions taken by the healthcare providers in correcting their myths and misconceptions about COVID-19 immunization. And lastly, future researchers may conduct a qualitative study on the COVID-19 booster shot hesitancy to include additional barangays with low vaccination rate. And as a final output of this study, and to answer the fourth statement of the problem, the researchers have come up with a proposal for an extensive health education program whose primary objectives are to educate the residents of Barangay Gabawan about the importance of COVID-19 vaccination and booster shots, provide accurate information about the vaccine safety, efficacy, and the role of booster shots in enhancing immunity against emerging variants, debunk common myths and misconceptions surrounding COVID-19 vaccination and booster shots, addressing fears and concerns, facilitate a question and answer session with a medical professional to clarify doubts, answer questions, and provide personalized guidance, provide resources and information on local vaccination centers and procedures, making it easier for residents to access vaccination services, and lastly, encourage greater vaccine uptake in the community by promoting a supportive, well-informed, and health-conscious environment. The result of this study aimed to bridge the gap and address the third Sustainable Development Goal of 2030, which is good health and well-being, specifically in terms of strengthening the capacity of the community for early warning, risk reduction, and management of national and global health risks such as the COVID-19 pandemic. That would be all, and I'm ready for it.
Hello, Ms. Rales. Good morning. Congratulations. Okay, I see that you identified 10 determinants.
Yes.
Okay. For example, you said determinant number 2. As a firm belief that having additional booster shots are unnecessary. Yun ang paniniwala niyo. Okay. That is not necessary. Who says it's necessary?
Majority of the population says that it is unnecessary since they already obtained the first initial doses.
Okay, but you failed to mention any study that says that it is necessary. Okay? So, sinasabi ko lang dito, for each determinant, you should put here the basis kung bakit misconception mo. Hindi nyo nilagay eh. Sinabi niyo ng misconception niya. Mali yan. Yun ang paniniwala nila. Ito ang tama. Pero there's no basis kung bakit niyo sinabi yun yung tama. Okay? Any comment? Thank you.
Thank you, Ren, and your team. Congratulations. Now, your study has come up with a beautiful health education program to address booster shot hesitancy. My question is, why did you not include that in your paper here?
Actually,
Very
sir,
important.
since proposed project pa lang po siya, we opted to not put it in the paper since yung implementation po ng program is gagawin po ng mga BHW and officers po sa Barangay Gagawan. Kasi according po sa advice ng advisor din namin, yung implementation ng program is under the responsibility na po ng RHU and the BHW. It is only up to us to generate a program or a proposal that will address the vaccine hesitancy issue.
You presented the same thing here, and that should also be incorporated in your paper because that's very important. So,
Actually, sir, dun sa manuscript po namin, we have come up with a proposal. Hindi lang po namin siya sinama sa sinubmit since may limit lang po yung number of pages.
okay, that should be included, because that's the most important one. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Alice, can you justify to us why you only opted, or I'm sorry for the word, you have 100 respondents for this one?
So, we considered, ma'am, the availability of willing respondents since vaccination is somewhat controversial to some residents. Only 100 yung willing po na mag-participate. We even tried to increase our sample pero some residents opted to not participate po in our study.
So, who are your eligible respondents then? Kasi I was not able to read.
So our respondents include those residents in Barangay Gabawan who are booster shot vaccine hesitant and belong from from school age hanggang older age po since yun yung basta yun.
So, if you are looking for those who are hesitant, so is that a non-purposive example already and random 100 residents?
Yung 100 po, ma'am, is purposive. Napili po namin siya using our purposive sampling with inclusion criteria.
So kindly, that's why it's, the methodology is very important, not just the results, because you cannot really go on and talk about the results if dito sa first part, your title, your objectives, and your methods to methods. So, but anyway, thank you and congratulations to you.
Thank you po.
Good morning, everyone. I am Elijah Imagana, a fourth-year nursing student from Nicol University. May I present to you our study, usability of teleconsultation and barriers to its implementation in Legazpi City, Albay. In the Philippines, various e-health programs and legislative efforts have shown promise for deploying teleconsultation. The recent COVID-19 pandemic accelerated the use of this as restrictions limited face-to-face contact with patients. As a result, partnerships were established to deliver healthcare services and provide free consultations, particularly in remote areas where populations have no access to physicians or telecommunication channels. Thus, the utilization of teleconsultation helped reduce the challenges for both providers and patients. Legazpi City practices teleconsultation in coordination with nurses of the Department of Health Nurse Deployment Project. The clients are referred to physicians through telephone, video consultations, and SMS. However, these services were only made available to a few barangays. This was considered a crucial opportunity to evaluate the usability of the present teleconsultation services in the city to sustain its operations for long-term success. Moreover, teleconsultation is continuously in use even after the pandemic. Therefore, it is also necessary to take a step back, determine and address the barriers to its adoption. In this digital age, as teleconsultation becomes increasingly prevalent in wealthier regions, it is crucial for resource-constrained areas to keep pace with its advancements. The findings could be of importance to the following: the respondents, the Department of Health administrators, local government unit officials, information and technology experts, and future researchers to give emphasis on the improvement of existing teleconsultation mediums for its effective utilization, especially in areas with limitations in adopting the system. Moreover, the study can be a source material to research on the potential rapid expansion of teleconsultation in other regions of the country. The 32 registered nurses affiliated to the DOH-MDT in Legazpi were the respondents of the study. They were selected through non-probability purposive sampling based on inclusion and exclusion criteria. The study did not include nurses who were not affiliated and whose assigned community is not within Legazpi City. The study was anchored in the Unified Theory of Acceptance and Use of Technology model. The researchers utilized a quantitative research design. We adopted the 5 categories of the telehealth usability questionnaire, which are usefulness, ease of use and learnability, interaction quality, reliability, satisfaction, and feature use. And the barriers from a pre-validated survey instrument by Aaron in the study, cancer provider and survivor experiences with telehealth during the COVID-19 pandemic. In constructing the questionnaire. The questionnaire consists of 3 parts: the demographical data of respondents, the adopted usability factors from EUQ, and the barriers to the implementation of teleconsultation in Legazpi City. The researchers utilized a 4-point Likert scale for part 2. A pilot testing was conducted in the municipality of Dalaga, Albay. The results of Frontmax alpha testing revealed a score of 0.98, which makes the internal consistency excellent, signifying that the modified questionnaire is a reliable research instrument. The 29th version of the statistical package of social sciences was used for the data analysis. For the results and discussion, in terms of age, the majority, 15 respondents or 47%, belong to the age group of millennials, 24 or 75% were female, majority of the respondents were designated in urban areas, with 17 or 53.1%. In terms of the usability of teleconsultation, 90% of the respondents strongly agree that teleconsultation is useful. 91.17% of respondents strongly agree that teleconsultation is easy to use and learn. 84.63% of the respondents agree with the similarity of teleconsultation to an in-person interaction. 83.33% of respondents agree that teleconsultation is reliable. 89.13% of the respondents strongly agree with the overall satisfaction and willingness to use teleconsultation in the future. The general weighted mean of the usability of teleconsultation is 3.50 or 87.56%, which indicates that teleconsultation in Legazpi City has a moderate level of usability. There are 9 crime-related barriers, and 25 or 78.1% of the respondents reported having limited data or minutes on the phone primarily affects the implementation of teleconsultation. The least influential factor is receiving the wrong link to the appointment with 6.8%. As for the service-related barriers, 11 or 34.4% reported that the provider was not present at the scheduled time, and another 11 reported that they are not comfortable using the technology. The suggested measures are based on the results of the study and in cognizance with the Philippine e-Health Systems and Services Act. The researchers also took into account the relevant literature, studies, and the main actions and global e-health strategies taken by the World Health Organization. The main objective of the suggested measure is to recommend activities and programs to build the capacity of the Legazpi City in addressing the barriers to the implementation and usage of teleconsultation. One measure is provided to each barrier. To address the primary crime-related barrier, the researchers suggest encouraging private sector investment in digital infrastructure. For the primary service provider related barriers, the researchers suggest establishing a standardized procedure for handling absences to ensure equitable and consistent treatment of patients and investing in patient experience. The researchers conclude that the majority of the respondents are female millennials assigned in urban areas. The level of usability of teleconsultation in Legazpi City is moderate. The clients and service providers have different barriers experienced in the implementation of teleconsultation. The suggested measures are provided to recommend activities and programs in building the capacity of Legazpi City in addressing the barriers to the implementation and usage of teleconsultation. The study recommends Legazpi LGU may strengthen teleconsultation services through the use of the suggested measures. The findings may be made available to the public. Third, establish a broadband network in underserved areas of the country. And fourth, future researchers may conduct a similar study to other far-flung areas of the country. And fifth, future studies may be conducted in the following areas. So here are the researchers. Thank you for your time and attention. I welcome any questions you may have.
Thank you. And congratulations again, Elijah and your team. Based on the
Andyan sa may taas ng Tupperwares.
your study, would you recommend widespread use of teleconsultation?
Yes, sir, I would recommend the widespread use of teleconsultation, and as supported by the literature and studies I have read, and even in our results, it is very convenient for the users. It will lessen the cost or it would be effective or helpful po in the time management, especially those who cannot allot a time to visit in-person consultations, etc. And we are now in this digital era, and I think that utilizing teleconsultation would be much more efficient po.
So, Mr. Karen, okay. Itong client-related barriers mo, yung nurse ang nagsabi o kayo nag-rate ng
Our barrier questionnaire po, this part was from a pre-valid survey instrument, and the panelists and even our advisor suggested that we should divide it, since we modified it po, into client and service provider, because our respondents are the NPE, and these nurses are in between the patients and the doctors or physicians po, so they know firsthand the possible barriers po sa service provider and the clients.
The only problem is in the Philippines, we are a multi-specialty physician group, no? Hindi katulad sa Amerika na maraming GPs dito, karamihan specialty. So, pag ganito kasi, depende sa problem ng patient kung ano yung sinong doktor at pilis. So, dito pa rin nakalagay dito yung number of patients, and ano yung primarily doctor na kailangan. You know what I mean?
Yes, actually about that po, sir, I don't. Since it is a program po that is practiced by the Legazpi City Health Office po, The main service provider po is the physician or doctor po in CH.
Ito nga ba yun?
Ms. Mariana, can you describe to us again what were the limitations of the study in terms of the non-availability of entities in Legazpi City? Medyo kasi
Our limitations po, since we only cover the Legazpi City po,
Yes.
it does not generalize the whole nurses in the nurses deployment project po.
Right.
And out of 70 barangays, only 32 po were included because these are the only barangays with NDPs po.
So the 32 is number of barangay.
The number
And
of
per
barangays
barangay there is one nurse.
Yes.
That's why you have 32 nurses.
This po was provided by the nurse deployment project head po in Legazpi City Health.
I really don't know how you will go about it because it's small. It became small. If there is another strategy, and not really that you can use another strategy and not rely on the NDP nurses. But in any case, because you chose a quantitative design. But when you have less than 50, you now have a weak results. Because you cannot, well, of course you cannot generalize because it's in Legazpi City, but it's still for you to describe how teleconsultation now is happening in Legazpi City, you still cannot because you only have 32. But that's a point for you to ponder. And also, can you mention to us again your objectives?
Okay, our statement of the problems or objectives po. First is the demographic profile of the
What's the statement? This is a learning activity for our students also.
So for the statement of the problem, first, what is the demographic profile of respondents in terms of age, sex, and assigned community, which is either urban or rural? Second, what is the level of usability of teleconsultation in Legazpi City? Usefulness, ease of use and learnability, interaction quality, reliability, and satisfaction and future use.
Because it's time's up. So just review what you have presented here on page 2 of your paper, because there are big words like to analyze, to evaluate, and these are not smart statements. Yeah. Thank you so much and congratulations to them.
Nandun po. Di na po. Ito na po. Ka-group ko na po. Nasa page.
According to the Global Tuberculosis Report, the Philippines still has a high incidence of tuberculosis and delays in treatment are common due to a lack of knowledge, awareness, and negative social attitude. Good morning, everyone. I'm Gaela Lineal Alnacidal, and in behalf of my group, practices on pulmonary tuberculosis and tuberculosis directly observed therapy short course or TB-DOTS among patients in selected barangays of Legazpi City. Despite the government's advocacies on tuberculosis, There are still issues with knowledge, attitudes, and practices on diseases. Hence, the researchers conducted a study to address and identify problems through survey. The study took place in Legazpi City, particularly the 3 barangays in rural and urban areas with the highest incidence of PTB. The respondents were patients with PTB, at least 15 years old and undergoing TB DOTS treatment. The study findings have implications for respondents' communities and organizations. Patients can increase their CAP toward the disease and treatment, while organizations may develop interventions and relevant ordinances to improve programs' effectiveness. Several studies on CAP have been accomplished in numerous nations. There was, however, no research on CAP of patients with an IEC material as an output. The study determined the patient's demographic profile, level of knowledge, sources of information, attitudes, and practices on pulmonary tuberculosis and TB DOTS. Anchored on the health belief model, the study utilized descriptive quantitative research design. Total enumeration was applied and non-probability purposive method. The researchers surveyed a total of 173 respondents using a modified questionnaire. Relevant questions were from previously published research as well as the CAP guide of the WHO. A dry run was conducted with 15 chosen respondents in the Municipal Health Office of Daraga. Results. Demographic profile. The respondents' profile in terms of age, sex, civil status, highest educational attainment, and family monthly income. Most respondents were between 15 and 24 years old. Adolescents and young adults may engage in behaviors that increases the risk as well as having wider social interactions. For sex, 67% were male. Previous studies also highlighted that men's higher smoking rate could make them more susceptible due to lung injury and reduced immune cell function. For civil status, 62% are married. This puts them at higher risk as household members live in close proximity and often breathe the same air as the patient. Most respondents are high school graduates. TB is often linked to poverty and marginalization. Those with lower education levels may experience more stigma, hindering their access to healthcare and treatment adherence. Also, the majority have a family monthly income of 10,000 or less. Low income and living conditions may lead to limited access to healthcare services, and malnutrition weakens immune system, thus increasing the risk for tuberculosis. Level of knowledge. The signs and symptoms of TB are easily recognized by people in different communities, with coughing for more than 3 weeks and coughing up blood being the most common symptoms. Patients tend to be aware of the signs and symptoms associated with TB due to their personal experiences. This was followed by prevention with a score of 0.75. Patients may receive education on preventive measures as part of their treatment management plan. People need to be aware that TB is preventable and various precautionary measures can be taken. The following categories garnered an average analysis score suggesting improvement. Treatment received a moderate score of 0.64. Patients are typically briefed about their prescribed medication, treatment duration, and potential side effects. However, the complexity of TB treatment involving multiple drugs taken in a long period can make it difficult for patients to fully understand their treatment regimen, followed by people affected with a score of 0.58. The findings imply that patients are unaware that various vulnerable groups, such as people with HIV, have a greater risk, which indicates misconception on how the disease truly spreads. 15% knew sharing toothbrushes or utensils couldn't spread the disease, and only 35% knew kissing couldn't either. Etiology had the lowest score of 0.50, which implies that many patients did not know that the type of bacteria called Bacillus causes tuberculosis. The total average score for level of knowledge is 20.17, with a total analysis score of 0.63. This shows that respondents are moderately knowledgeable. Sources of information. This presents the sources of respondents on TTD and treatment. 86% gained information from healthcare workers who are essential in treating TB patients according to the WHO. In a pie chart, it shows that families and healthcare workers were 21%, followed by radio with 17%. Attitudes. Considering the weighted mean results, the respondents feel that people with PTB should be supported by the community and treated nicely. Patients recognize that social support is vital for their recovery and for combating stigma, followed by seeking medical care for anyone exposed. Patients are aware that prompt diagnosis and treatment can prevent further spread of the disease. However, not feeling afraid because of the support system was the least, followed by being calm whenever visiting a health facility. Patients may understand the importance of follow-up care and treatment adherence, yet patients may still feel anxious during health visits due to concern about disease progression, treatment effectiveness, or medical procedures, despite having support from friends, family, or healthcare providers. The overall weighted mean for attitudes is 3.93, which indicates a positive attitude towards PTB. Practices. Considering the weighted mean results, the respondents always take prescribed medication for their treatment every day. Treatment usually involves taking multiple drugs daily for months. It is crucial to stick to their regimen to treat the infection effectively and prevent drug-resistant strain, followed by covering their mouth and nose when sneezing or coughing. This prevents the TB bacterium from spreading through the air, lowering the danger of other people contracting the disease. On the other hand, the respondents least practice exercising regularly. However, this finding is understandable because PTB is known to cause lung tissue scarring, and also TB symptoms such as cough, fatigue, or shortness of breath can make physical activity challenging or uncomfortable, followed by making home remedies as an alternative treatment. Users of alternative treatments had a higher mortality rate than those using optimal drug regimens. Conclusion. The study found that most respondents were poor adolescents to young adults, male with primary education. While patients were knowledgeable about the signs and symptoms and prevention of PTB, patients only had moderate knowledge about its treatment, people affected, mode of transmission, and etiology. Healthcare workers were the primary source of information. Most patients had a positive attitude, and responses indicate that effective practices and treatments were frequently used. To further enhance the gap of the respondents, the study suggests using a digital and printable copy of an IEC material covering various aspects such as etiology, mode of transmission, and more. Recommendation. Based on the findings and conclusion, the study recommends expanding its scope by including a larger population from different geographic areas to achieve broader applicability. It also suggests exploring the causes of gender disparity in PTB-related gap and impact of socioeconomic factors. The study also recommends understanding the knowledge gaps among patients with low knowledge scores and assessing the long-term sustainability of positive attitudes and practices observed. Finally, the study suggests assessing the effectiveness of the developed IEC material through a follow-up study to measure its impact on improving the gap of the patients. So that would be all po, and thank you so much.
Thank you. Carolina and your team, congratulations. You have three important variables in your study: knowledge, attitude, and practice. Now, my question is, can you walk us through the manner by which you develop the instrument, ensuring that it will be valid?
So for the instrument po, we used as a reference other previously published studies. Yung questionnaires po nila, ginamit po namin or inadapt po namin. Then we also adopted po yung CAP questionnaire ng WHO. Yung validity naman po, we conducted a dry run in Municipal Health Office of Daraga using with 15 respondents sa TB dots din po nila. Bali po dito sa study namin is we asked the help of DHW since TB dots po baga. The patients have treatment partners who oversees how if they take their medication every day kasi important po yung medication sa kanila because if they skip at siguro at least 2 medications or 1, it could lead to drug resistant strains which is mas marami na ngayon sa Philippines.
Hello, Ms. Musida, congratulations. Okay, just one comment. Okay, I think you failed to ask the period of when the patient is taking the medication. For example, you ask a patient that's taking for 1 month pa lang siyang umiinom na anti-TB compared to the one who's taking it for 4 months already. Sa tingin ko, may difference dun sa knowledge nila. So I think you failed to mention. So dapat na isama yun sa study. Okay?
Okay po.
Thank you.
Hello? Ma'am, what makes your study urgent?
Actually po, I read the Global Tuberculosis Report of 2023. The Philippines po is listed as one of the 8 countries that contributed po to among two-thirds of the total population na may TB na worldwide. So in the Philippines, siguro, as stated, at least 600 per 10,000 cases meron sa Philippines. And for exact cases, December 2023, Philippines has 612,534 cases of TB. So, dito sa Philippines, although nag-i-improve yung treatment, mas gumagaling na yung drug-resistant strains. However, alarming siya since nagli-lead pa siya to drug-resistant strain where you can treat it when that TB po is working pa doon sa 4 primary medications ng TB. So pag nag-lead po baga siya for drug-resistant strains, mahirap na po siya hanapan ng medication na mag-work pa or gagaling pa po siya. So alarming po siya, and sa Bicol po, number 1 disease po siya here.
Okay, so you can relate, of course, some more of your answers to the beneficiaries of your study. So this is really very, because yun na nga, sabi na. And can you tell us again your objective statements? How many do you have?
At least 5.
What are these?
Yung demographic profiles, level of knowledge of patients on PTB and tuberculosis, yung sources of information, level of attitudes, and level of practices, and yung IEC material.
6. So kindly put as an objective your IEC there because it's not. Okay, congratulations, everyone.
Alright, there you have it. Ladies and gentlemen, we have finally ended the presentation of each competitor. Once again, we are in full gratitude for all our student researchers. Thank you as well for all our spectators, to our Bicol University College of Nursing team, to the rest of the faculty and the non-teaching staff. Likewise, we would like to acknowledge our evaluators, Dr. Melvin Berry, Professor Elma Mirandilla, and Attorney Joseph Bartolata for sharing their expertise for today's competition. At this juncture, we shall provide a short break time for our judges to reach a decision.
To all our student researchers, we hope that this competition will be a sweet memory. To all of you, nevertheless, you win or lose. To us, everyone is a winner as you have battled yourself to step on the stage to deliver your performance. May we then ask our student researchers to remain to the plenary hall while waiting for the results of the competition. The awarding of the winners shall be formally announced at this hall, and may we also invite the evaluators to join us, to be with us in this hall for the awarding.
By the way, our tabulators today for the competition would be Professor Fatima Kalingasyon and Professor Beth Monsalve.
Thank you. and then Mabidi. Huge thank you to all. This is your host today, Dr. Charina Simcon, with my partner, Professor Didi Lobet. Have a pleasant morning.